Oakridge University was known for its bright lights, loud laughter, and endless drama. Among the sea of confident students and flashy cars, Eli Carter stood out for all the opposite reasons. He was quiet, humble, and usually seen walking alone across campus with his books clutched tightly against his chest. A scholarship student from a small town, Eli didn't belong to the world of privilege that most students at Oakridge enjoyed, but he carried himself with quiet strength. In contrast, Sienna Blake ruled the social scene. Captain of the cheer team, always in her crimson varsity jacket, she had beauty, charm, and power, everything Eli didn't. One chilly Friday night, during a campus party filled with laughter and glowing string lights, her friends dared her to do the unthinkable: make Eli fall in love with her, then dump him before Valentine's Day. It was meant to be a harmless joke, a test of her charm. But as Sienna's green eyes landed on Eli sitting quietly in a corner, she smirked and said, "Game on."
The days that followed felt different for Eli. For the first time since coming to Oakridge, someone noticed him, and not just anyone, but Sienna Blake. She started showing up at the library where he studied, sometimes pretending to need help with her math homework, other times just sitting quietly beside him, tapping her pen on the desk while pretending to read. Eli, shy but kind, began to open up. He told her about his small hometown, his mother working double shifts, and his dream of becoming a civil engineer. Every word came from his heart. Sienna listened, at first because it was part of the game. But the more she heard, the more she saw something she wasn't used to: sincerity. Eli didn't try to impress her. He didn't even seem to care who she was on campus. He spoke to her like a person, not like a trophy. One afternoon, as they left the library together, Sienna laughed genuinely at one of his awkward jokes, realizing she hadn't laughed that freely in a long time. Her friends, watching from across the quad in their matching varsity jackets, whispered and giggled, but Sienna couldn't stop smiling. That night, she found herself scrolling through his social media. Pictures of him helping out at a youth center, fixing broken computers, smiling shyly. Something warm stirred in her chest, something she wasn't supposed to feel. The game had started as a dare, but she was starting to lose track of which parts were fake.
Weeks passed, and the lines between truth and pretend began to blur. What started as a game began to feel like a routine Sienna couldn't live without. She and Eli met every evening at the student cafe, where he always ordered plain black coffee while she sipped caramel lattes with whipped cream. Their talks stretched from schoolwork to life dreams to the stars above the Oakridge clock tower. Every conversation left her feeling lighter, and every smile from him lingered longer than it should have. Sienna's friends noticed. During lunch, they teased her in the cafeteria, their varsity jackets gleaming in the sunlight. "You're getting too deep, Blake," one of them warned. "Remember, it's just a dare." She laughed it off, tossing her hair over her shoulder, but inside, guilt was beginning to twist her stomach. Eli's kindness was breaking through her walls in ways she never expected. The boy she thought she could play now owned her thoughts. One afternoon, Sienna found Eli tutoring a freshman who couldn't afford a private coach. She stood behind the door, watching him patiently explain equations, his voice calm and his smile warm. Something about that moment changed her completely. For the first time, Sienna Blake wished the dare had never existed. That evening, as they walked across the campus lawn under fading sunlight, Eli said quietly, "You know, I used to think people like you would never see someone like me." Sienna looked at him, her throat tightening. "Maybe I was wrong," he added with a shy smile. She smiled back, but her heart ached. She wanted to tell him the truth, but she couldn't. Not yet. Not when she was falling in love with him for real. February crept closer, and the whispers on campus grew louder. The girls who started the dare counted the days with wicked excitement, reminding Sienna that Valentine's Day and Eli's heartbreak were fast approaching. But to Sienna, every day now felt like a countdown to disaster. What had once been a playful challenge had turned into a love she could no longer deny. She started avoiding her friends and spending more time with Eli instead. They studied together, shared lunch beneath the oak trees, and even went to the campus basketball game, both wearing varsity jackets with the Oakridge logo. The crowd's noise faded whenever she looked at him. Eli wasn't flashy, but his calmness drew her in like gravity. He made her feel seen, not for her looks, but for her soul. Yet beneath her smile, guilt burned. Sienna knew her silence was a ticking time bomb. Every laugh they shared, every gentle look he gave, only made it worse. He was already falling, and she had promised to let him fall hard. That night, Sienna sat on her dorm bed scrolling through photos of them together. Eli's shy grin in every frame pierced her heart. She picked up her phone and typed a message to her friends. "I'm out. I can't do this anymore." But she couldn't hit send. Fear stopped her. Fear of losing her friends, her reputation, and the world she'd built. Meanwhile, Eli, in his small off-campus room, was smiling at his phone. He had just finished writing her a Valentine's poem. Simple, pure, and full of love. Little did he know, his world was about to break.
It all started with a whisper. One of Sienna's so-called friends, angry that she was ignoring their group, decided to take revenge. During lunch at the Student Center, she loudly told a group of students that Sienna had only been dating the scholarship boy for a dare. Within hours, the rumor spread like wildfire. By sunset, half of Oakridge University knew. Eli heard it from a classmate in the hallway. "Hey, Carter," the guy snickered. "Guess you're just another one of Sienna's projects." The words hit harder than a punch. Eli froze, his throat dry, as laughter echoed down the corridor. He didn't want to believe it, but when he saw the screenshots, the original group chat, the messages, the date of the bet, his hands began to shake. Sienna didn't know what was happening until she reached the cafeteria and felt the silence. Everyone was staring at her. Phones were out, screens glowing with messages she didn't want to see. And then she saw him, Eli, standing at the door, holding his phone with trembling fingers. His face said everything. She ran toward him, desperate, whispering, "Eli, please, I can explain." But he stepped back, pain in his eyes. "Explain what, Sienna? That I was entertainment? That my feelings were part of your fun?" His voice broke, low and raw. Tears filled her eyes as the crowd watched. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. I love you." But Eli turned away, his heart shattered. That night, Sienna cried harder than she ever had. The game was over, but so was the one person who had ever truly seen her.
The next morning, Oakridge University buzzed with gossip. Sienna Blake, the girl who had once ruled the campus, now walked alone through the hallways. Her friends avoided her, afraid of the backlash. The same people who once cheered her name now whispered behind her back. Her perfect image had cracked wide open. Eli stopped coming to class. His seat in the library, the one near the window where sunlight always touched his books, remained empty. Sienna went there every day, hoping to find him, but he never showed. She left notes for him, handwritten apologies that she slid between the pages of his favorite textbooks. None were ever answered. Finally, she found the courage to go to his apartment off campus. When he opened the door, the look in his eyes nearly broke her. Gone was the warmth that once made her heart flutter. He looked tired, guarded. "Eli," she whispered, holding out a small box. "These are all the letters I wrote you. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but—" He interrupted softly. "Sienna, you don't understand. You didn't just break my heart. You made me believe I mattered, only to prove I didn't." Her voice trembled. "You did matter. You still do. The game stopped being a dare the moment I met the real you." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I fell in love with you, Eli. I swear I did." He looked at her for a long moment, then stepped back. "Maybe you did," he said quietly. "But sometimes love isn't enough to undo what's broken." Then he closed the door. Sienna stood there in the cold hallway, clutching the box to her chest, realizing that the person she truly wanted was gone, and it was her fault.
The semester dragged on, but to Sienna, Oakridge no longer felt like the place she knew. The laughter, the cheers from the football field, even the sound of her name, all of it had turned into painful echoes. Her friends had moved on, but she hadn't. Every hallway reminded her of Eli. Every empty library seat was a wound that refused to heal. She tried to focus on cheer practice, but her spirit was gone. Her coach noticed her fading energy and told her to take a break. Instead, Sienna started volunteering at the campus tutoring center, the same place where Eli used to help struggling students. She thought maybe if she gave back the same way he did, she'd feel closer to him somehow. One afternoon, while helping a freshman with math, she spotted his handwriting on an old worksheet left behind. Neat, careful, and full of patience, just like him. She ran her fingers over the paper, whispering, "I miss you." It wasn't about pity anymore. It was about realizing that Eli had changed her. He had made her want to be better, not for attention, but for herself. Meanwhile, Eli had started applying for transfer programs. He couldn't bear to stay at Oakridge anymore. The betrayal haunted him, and every corner of campus felt poisoned by the memory of her. Yet deep inside, he still missed her laughter, the real one, not the one from the game. One night, Sienna heard that Eli had been accepted into another university. He was leaving California. She stared at the news post for minutes, frozen, tears welling up. Her chance to make things right was slipping away. And for the first time, Sienna prayed, not for fame or friends, but for one last chance to say sorry face to face. The morning Eli was set to leave Oakridge University, the sky was pale and quiet, almost as if the world itself knew something important was ending. Sienna woke up early, her heart pounding, knowing this was her last chance. She threw on her crimson varsity jacket, grabbed the small box of letters she had written for him, and ran across campus toward the bus terminal. When she arrived, Eli was there, standing by the curb with a suitcase in hand, earphones in, staring off into the distance. He looked peaceful, but there was a sadness in his eyes that broke her. She called out softly, "Eli!" He turned, surprise flickering across his face, then fading into calm. "I know you don't owe me a second of your time," she began, breathless, "but I couldn't let you go without hearing this." She stepped closer, holding out the box. "These letters, they're not excuses. They're everything I never said. You changed me, Eli. You taught me what it means to care without expecting anything in return, and I'm sorry I had to lose you to learn that." He stared at the box, silent for a long moment. Then he took it gently, his fingers brushing hers. "Sienna," he said quietly, "I believe you, but forgiveness doesn't mean going back. Sometimes love means letting go." Tears streamed down her cheeks as the bus engine roared to life. Just promise me one thing," she whispered. "Don't stop being the person you are, kind, patient, real." He smiled faintly. "And you, don't stop being better than your past." Then he boarded the bus, leaving her standing there under the cold morning sun, clutching her jacket, her heart breaking and healing all at once.
Days turned into weeks after Eli's departure, and life at Oakridge University slowly went on, but not for Sienna. The noise of campus life returned, but she no longer fit in with it. The cheers, the gossip, and the shallow laughter felt hollow. Her friends had found new games, new people to tease, but Sienna had outgrown all of it. The dare that once defined her now haunted her. Instead of parties, she spent her evenings at the library, the same seat where Eli once sat, near the window with golden sunlight pouring through. She would place one of his letters there and read it quietly, whispering the words to herself. The pain of missing him didn't fade, but it turned into something else, a drive to change. She focused on her studies, joined volunteer groups, and started helping the same scholarship students her circle once mocked. One afternoon, as she walked past the quad, she saw a new freshman being teased for wearing old shoes. Without thinking, Sienna stepped in, her voice steady. "Leave him alone," she said. "You don't get to judge people for what they don't have." The bullies went silent, the same way she once had when Eli spoke truth to her. That night, she sat by the campus fountain, wearing her crimson varsity jacket, staring at the stars. For the first time in months, she smiled. Not because she was happy, but because she finally understood the kind of person she wanted to be. In the quiet of that evening, she whispered, "Thank you, Eli, for teaching me what real love looks like." She didn't know where he was, but she hoped, somehow, he could hear her heart.
Spring arrived at Oakridge University, and with it came a small envelope with no return address. It was dropped at the front desk of the Student Center, with Sienna Blake's name written neatly in familiar handwriting. When she opened it, her hands trembled. Inside was a simple letter, one she never expected to receive. "Dear Sienna," it began, "I read every letter you gave me. It took time, but I understand now that people can change when they truly want to. You hurt me, yes, but you also showed me that even the most broken moments can shape something beautiful. I'm at Stanford now, and I'm doing fine. I just wanted you to know that I forgave you long ago. I hope you've forgiven yourself, too. Eli." Tears blurred her vision as she clutched the paper to her chest. For the first time since he left, she didn't cry out of pain. She cried out of peace. She walked to the same oak tree where they once sat, wearing her crimson varsity jacket, and whispered into the breeze, "Thank you, Eli. I'll never forget you." She looked out at the campus, where new students laughed and chased dreams, and she smiled softly. The girl who once lived for attention had learned to live for purpose. She started a small foundation for low-income students, naming it the Carter Initiative. It was her way of keeping his kindness alive. And for everyone watching this story on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Whether you're in London, California, Jamaica, Trinidad, New York, Florida, Atlanta, Nigeria, or South Africa, we love to see your support. And remember, we give shout-outs to the first 3 comments on every upload, so don't miss out. Moral lesson? Love is not a game, and people's hearts are not toys. True love begins when we choose honesty over pride, kindness over popularity, and forgiveness over pain. Always value those who see you for who you are, because real love changes you, not just your reputation.